Welcome to the Fantasy Aceball podcast. This is your host, Tim Kanak. You can find me on X at Fantasy Aceball. You can also find this podcast live for your viewing pleasure on YouTube. If you check out my YouTube channel, The Tim Kanak, that's spelled Kanak, all one word, The Tim Kanak. Yes, palindrome name. Mentioned that before. Same forward as backwards. Nice and easy for you, the listeners, so you can find me. So you can also read my written work over on Fantasy Pros. If you're following along, this podcast is being released on January 26th. You will see that my prospect rankings, my top 150, I spent a ton of time on it. Literally was writing it in the Dominican Republic on vacation, sitting on the beach, writing this on my laptop for you on my own vacation. It took me like probably, look, it's hard to say how long this actually took me to write, right? Like the fScores, I can tell you, took me like 400 hours because I probably worked on them every night for 3 hours for about 4 months. And on the weekends, like another, I don't know, 15 to 20 hours every weekend, like a full-time job. That's how much the fScores took me to do. That's how long they took me to do. For the prospect stuff, this is something where I wrote for Fantasy Pros an article every week. I was on the Prospect One podcast every week. And so a lot of that training every week and what I'm seeing from the prospects every single week is going to go into what my prospect rankings are going to be. Not to mention my eyes on the prize, right? Because I am in Florida, so I am able to go to many of these games and see these players, which I'm going to be doing this spring for you here in Florida. But I saw many of these players live, especially a lot of the pitchers. A lot of the pitchers, especially who were in the correct organizations, ran through Florida State League and like ran up. So I saw a lot of the pitchers in my rankings live, which definitely helps when you're providing your rankings. Like a lot of people providing prospect rankings are not actually seeing the players live. A lot are too, but I saw the players live. I have my own fScores, so I have my own algorithm providing me data back. Not to mention, I also can just look at stats the old school way, and I'm looking through this StatCast stuff that's available to us. One of the tricky things with prospects is that it's not all available to you. And so if you want to check out the top 150 prospects, the first like 76 through 150 are now available on Fantasy Pros as of this recording. If you're listening, they'll probably all be out by like Thursday or Friday or something because I released 6 different articles in groups of 25 to make things easy. Because if I released it all in one, it was a 61-page document. I don't think anyone wants to read a novel when you go to a website to find rankings. So we separated it out for you so that you can read them in nice chunks, nice digestible chunks, so that you're not reading a 61-page ranking. But that's literally how much I wrote about all these guys, was 61 pages. So a ton of work went into these prospect rankings. It's not just a number. I'm not just moving guys up and down a board or thinking, I like this guy better than that guy. No, there's literally, I'm looking at stats. I'm getting live looks when I can. I am getting weekly context of how consistent or inconsistent these guys are by doing my weekly reports. And then I have my fScores. So I have my fScores that are also giving me an equation to help me move guys up or down in my rankings. And all these things matter, and they're all going to help adjust my rankings. And for context, because people are going to ask, I did actually forget a couple guys. So let me get the name here. I forgot Drake Baldwin in my rankings. Total mind fart, because I think I have him in like the 70 to 80 range. Let me pull this up for you real quick, because I want to be accurate on this. So I totally forgot Drake Baldwin when I was doing my rankings. I haven't ranked 88, but he's not on there at 88. I like him a lot for this year. I guess part of my mind was just like, oh, he's going to be the backup catcher for the Braves. He's already in the majors, not a prospect, but he's still a prospect. That's just a dumb brain fart. So Drake Baldwin, totally forgot. Sorry about that. Another guy I forgot, Luis Angel Acuna. who I have ranked 74. I actually like him quite a bit this year. So I have him actually right between Cam Smith and Cole Young in my rankings when we get to the rankings. But I do have Luis Angel Acuna as a top 75 prospect. So sorry about that. Again, a brain fart. I guess I was just like, oh, he's a starter. He already was called up, and just complete total brain fart on that. But Luis Angel Acuna is ranked 74. Drake Baldwin, 88. And then I also forgot Sean Burke. That's the other guy that I forgot. And if I was to rank Sean Burke, I would probably have him right at the back end. I never had him in my prospect rankings because his control is really bad, and it was not really good until he hit the pros. So I probably would have had him like right at the end, like number like 150 or something like that. Because I probably would have had him ahead of Ian Seymour. So he probably would have been my second to last pitcher. So he would have been in like the 140 to 150 range of my prospects. I would have had Owen Murphy and Connor Prelip and AJ Smith-Shawver still over him. So just for context, that's where I think he belongs, somewhere in that range. So 140 to 150-ish range for Sean Burke. Definitely forgot about him. I had thought that he reached the innings threshold, and I didn't look. That's just me being dumb. Sorry about that. I forgot those guys, but there are their rankings, in case you were wondering. So they will not be in the articles. If you notice they're not in the articles, please don't write me and say, hey, you forgot my favorite player, Drake Baldwin. Literally dumb brain fart on those guys. So my bad after all that time spent. But that's also what happens when you stare at a one Word document, a 61-page Word document is what it becomes for like 3 weeks in a row. That can happen. My editors will edit my bad verbiage mistakes, but they're not going to tell me, hey, did you miss a dude maybe? No. So sorry about that, but just wanted to throw that out there in case you were wondering. And what we're going to do in this podcast is we're going to go over my first year player draft rankings, and we're going to go over my rankings from last year to see how I did. How about that? I'm going to give you my wins, going to give you my losses. And if you're watching on the YouTube, what I'm going to do is I'm going to literally pull up my document because this is going to be an article also on Fantasy Pros, and I'm giving you a sneak peek. So if you're listening to this podcast and if you're watching this YouTube, you're actually getting a sneak peek to a Fantasy Pros article that has already been submitted, but it has not come out yet. Ooh. Sweet teaser here for you. So that's what we're going to do in this podcast. I just wanted to give you a little insight into my prospect rankings before we dig into it. A little more in the prospect rankings. I already told you kind of like my process about how I go through everything. What else? Oh, the fScores for prospects. So the fScores for prospects, just so you know, and how it can be difficult for me to gauge some of these like first year player draft guys is that we're working off small sample sizes. And when I'm doing my fScores for prospects, I like nice sample sizes. Usually for major leaguers, I'll use full season and half season sample sizes for my fScores. But for prospects, we may not have that many full seasons of that time. If we do, then I will use that. But if not, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use sample sizes at certain levels based upon how much they actually play, right? So I'll use certain sample sizes, and it'll all depend on how much they play. And we've talked about stabilization before, right? So I have talked about this many times on this podcast, and just again for reference, you need sample sizes of certain measures for them to be worth anything. Otherwise, they're not worth anything. So we're going to go through this very slowly for you if you want to take notes. But here are approximate stabilization rates for hitting stats. Strikeout rate stabilizes in approximately 50 to 60 plate appearances. So that is roughly 10 to 15 games, right? So within about 2 weeks, strikeout rate can stabilize for hitters. Walk rate takes 120 plate appearances. So it can take around a month or a little longer than a month for walk rate to stabilize, maybe a month and a half, maybe 6 weeks. So if we want to be rough, we can say 2 to 3 weeks for strikeout rate and 5 or 6 weeks for walk rate to stabilize. So you need at least, I would say, for hitters, you're probably going to want, let's go through all these first, and then we'll talk about it. Contact rate takes 100 plate appearances. So again, that's like 4 or 5 weeks. EVs take only 40 balls in play. So 40 balls in play means you got to hit the ball 40 times. So depending on the hitter, right? If you're Edward Julian, you're not taking the bat off the shoulder, but some of these hitters might hit that in a week, and some of them might take 3 weeks. Ground ball to fly ball rate, 80 balls in play. That's about 5-6 weeks generally. ISO is 160 at bats, so that's about 2 months. And then slugging is about 310 to 320 at bats. That's half of a season. Sometimes we don't get half of a season small sample size. So we round down a little bit on slugging, and I'm going to lean on the ISO. On base percentage takes 460 plate appearances to stabilize. You're not going to get that many small sample sizes for prospects a lot of the time. So I'll live, again, with usually about 2.5 months. And then BABIP and batting average usually take 1.5 seasons to stabilize. So this is why you need multiple seasons and multiple sample sizes to get any kind of good measure. If you have like 5 games in the minors or 10 games in the minors, you're not going to learn anything about a hitter with that. It's just a hot streak or a cold streak, pretty much. Like you're really not going to learn anything from that. So what I do for sample sizes for my hitters is I want roughly about 60 games, right? That's kind of what I'm trying to get. I would ideally get like 50 or 60 games in any sample size. So I'm going to filter out anything smaller than that, and I'm not going to use smaller sample sizes than 50, 60 games for hitters. For pitchers, strikeout rate stabilizes in about 15 to 20 innings. Walk rate stabilizes in about 40 innings. So reliever, that might be like a whole season, which is why I like never rank relievers. Even Craig Yoho is not my top 150. I don't want to stash relievers prospects. Like I'll pick them in a redraft, but I'm not going to stash a reliever prospect unless I think they're going to debut right away. Like I have a 40-man odd new league where I have a $2 Craig Yoho. That's about the only, and it's a 16-team league. That's about the only time I'm going to stash a reliever prospect. Sorry. EVs, 60 to 65 innings for EVs against for pitchers. And then stuff plus stabilizes in about 80 pitches. So given this stuff, we probably want about a minimum of 40 innings for pitchers. We would like to get maybe like 60 innings because since that's when EVs stabilize. That's also when like our bad contact, good contact, that type of stuff is going to stabilize. So I think that we are looking at generally about a 40 inning sample size if I'm going to pull any sample for my fScores. Because like I said, I will have to cut up sometimes sample sizes by levels with minor leaguers, just depending on if you've only had one season in the minors, I'm going to have to divide that a few different ways. Like I don't want to just use the one season as my only sample. Like I'm going to cut it up into different levels and balance them off each other and use my algorithms, which I've already provided on past podcasts. If you want to see the correlations as you rise through the ranks of the minors, I have a podcast where I go through how much better and how much worse players at different positions in their stats get when they go up from A to A ball or A to high A or high A to double A or double A to the majors or triple A to the majors. Like I have a correlation table that I've provided to you on another podcast before. I think it was actually the last podcast that I did with John. So if you not the one we just did, but the previous podcast with John, if you want to look in my feed, you can find that and you'll get that information. So I just want to provide that to you. That's how I'm getting the minor league fScores, so you have some context behind the numbers that you're about to see. So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen right here to my article as written in PDF format. How about that? You're getting a live look straight into my work. Okay. So first year player draft in 2024. Here were the ranks that I had last year. Number 1, I had Wyatt Langford as my number 1 first year player draft guy. I called this a win, even though I mentioned in the article, if you want to read it, I'm not going to go verbatim here in this podcast, so we're not going to go verbatim. But White Langford had 16 bombs and 19 steals and a pretty decent slash, and he played a lot better in the second half, and that's also with an injury. If he never got hurt, he might have been 2020, and nobody would be saying nothing bad about White Langford. I love White Langford for last year. I love him for this year. Nothing's going to change on that. But going back retrospectively, obviously anyone should have put Paul Skeens at number 1, but I had White Langford number 1. I had Yoshi Yamamoto number 2. I called this one a push. I didn't give myself a win or a loss for it because Yamamoto got hurt, and it's very possible that maybe he would have been better than Skeens if he played a whole season. He was really good when he did play. So I'm giving Yamamoto a push. Dylan Cruz, I put number 3. I'm calling this a win because I was higher than Dylan Cruz than a lot of other people were last year, and he's still a top 10 prospect for me. So I had him number 3 here. I'm calling this a win. Paul Skeens number 4. I'm calling this a push. There were people who were just out on Skeens because of his fastball. I was still definitely in on him, right? But I had him at number 4. There were also people who had other hitters ahead of him, like Walker Jenkins and Max Clark ahead of Skeens. Many people did that. I put Skeens at number 4. I didn't win as like him being my number 1 guy, which he should have been. So that's why I'm calling it a push and not a win on Skeens at 4. Number 5, Walker Jenkins, top 10 prospect now. I had him top 10 last year, and this is a win putting him in at number 5 because he's just a really good player, and he's going to be really good for points, especially. Just expect when Walker Jenkins is up in the majors, he's going to be like an early career Juan Soto. Like he's going to be walking a ton, and he might only hit like 25 bombs in a season because his plate skills are like too good. And he's like almost too patient. Like when I saw him live, he walked like 3 times. So just keep that in mind with Walker Jenkins, that he's probably better for OBP or points formats. And to be honest with you, I might pick Max Clark ahead of him in a Roto league. Number 6, I had Matt Shaw. I'm calling this a win because Matt Shaw had a pretty darn good year last year, and he's probably going to be starting third base for the Cubs at the beginning of this year. So I call that a win. Matt Shaw, number 6. Number 7, this is a huge loss. I had Tommy Troy, number 7. He was terrible last year. When he debuted, so this is the small sample size thing again. We didn't have much to work off of except for college numbers, and then like a small sample size in the minors in 2023 where he was actually pretty good, and he was very, very bad last year. He's not even my top 150 right now. So Tommy Troy, number 7, that's a huge loss. Number 8, I had Kyle Teal. I was pretty high on Teal, and I think that's a win. Dude was literally traded for Garrett Crochet, Montgomery too. So, we'll talk about Montgomery in this podcast as well. But I think that's a big win putting Teal at 8 because Teal was good. I think he's going to be more of a doubles guy than like he might only hit like 15 homers in a season. I think he's going to hit a decent amount of doubles for a catcher though. Cause some damage in like a different sort of way because a lot of the catchers that we have now are boom or bust, right? Like you got your Cal Rallies and your Shaylin Glears where it's like home run, strikeout, walk. Like, and you're okay with that sometimes. I think Teal is going to produce maybe more on a batting average RBI run standpoint from a catcher, oddly. Which like that's why like in my prospect rankings, I call him like a Buster Posey light, just because that's the type of catcher he is. That's kind of what his profile is going to be. He's not going to be Buster Posey, right? But he's that type of profile where I think he's going to be more of like a doubles guy, and he's going to get some nice counting stats and have put up a pretty nice average. That's my thoughts. So I have Max Clark, number 9 here. I'm calling this a loss. I pushed him down too far because of proximity. Like looking at this list now, like my current rankings, I have Max Clark ahead of Matt Shaw. So I should have had Clark 6th, but I had him at 9. I'm calling that a loss. Now, I had Noble Meyer at number 10. People are going to think that I had him too high. I'm calling this a win. And you'll see when I talk about, and when I get into my rankings, like Noble Meyer is phenomenal. I don't care about his stats. I really don't. They're minor league stats. This guy had the best stuff of any pitcher I saw last year. And I saw a lot of really good pitchers. I saw Quinn Matthews. I saw Wei Chen Lin, a couple times. I saw Tommy White. I saw Noble Meyer. I saw George Klassen. I saw Michael Kennedy. I saw a lot of really, really good. There's more I can't even think of right now, but I saw a lot of really good pitchers last year in the minors. I live right next to a minor league ballpark, and I live right next to the minor league ballpark where Noble Meyer plays. Noble Meyer has the best stuff out of all of these guys. So I don't care about the stats. Noble Meyer is going to be a stud. This guy's going to be a G. This is probably like the number one prospect to buy on right now because everyone's dropping him. And I think it's dumb because they haven't seen him and I have. And his stuff is just stupid good. Like this guy's going to be an ace. He just is. His stuff is insane. So I don't care what the numbers say. Like this dude, when I saw him, he was phenomenal. Best pitcher that I saw all year. And I love Quinn Matthews. And I have Quinn Matthews as a top 25 player. So, Noble Meyer is going to be a G. Just book it. Number 11, Hurston Waldrip. I'm calling this a win for a weird reason. Because I was down on Waldrip. There were people that had Waldrip like number 6 in their first year player drafts last year. I did not like Waldrip because I knew his control was terrible. And he's only gotten worse, to be honest. So I call this a win that I was down on him. Number 12, Brock Wilken. I'm calling this one a push. Like the dude got nailed in the face last year by a pitch, and like his contact was so bad last year. His hit tool in my fScores is like an 80. I don't think that's who he is. I think his hit tool is better than that. I think he got, Austin Riley had some bad minor league seasons too. I think it's just the dude got nailed. Let's give him a second shot here. 13, Braden Taylor. I'm calling this a win. A lot of people had Braden Taylor in like the 20s of their first year player drafts last year. I was the high guy on him, and look how good he is now. I like Braden Taylor a lot, so I'm calling that one a win. Number 14, Rhett Lauder. I'm calling this a loss. I was a little down on Lauder because I was like, he's going to the Reds. I don't think he's that great. I think he's kind of like, okay. I'm calling it a loss because I had Waldrip ahead of Lauder. I think Lauder's still going to be fine, but I think he's going to be fine as like a number 3, number 4 starter. I don't think he's going to be a number 1 or a number 2. He doesn't have the stuff for that. He can be a fine number 3. Like he's going to be a very solid middle of the road type pitcher. He's really good at limiting damage for whatever that's worth. That's going to actually be worth a lot in Great American Ballpark. But I'm calling Rhett Lauder a loss. Number 15, Colt Emerson. I have this one labeled as a win, even though like when you look at these names, you're like, why is that a win? He should be ranked higher. Yes, but I still also had him ranked at 15, which is higher than most people had him ranked going into last season. So that's why I'm calling Colt Emerson a win for me. Number 16, Leo DeVries. I saw a prospect or first year player drafts last year that didn't even have DeVries on it because he's an international guy. Now look at DeVries. He's a top 20 prospect. So Leo DeVries, number 16. That is a big win, I think. Number 17, Chase Davis. I'm calling this a loss. I was a little too high on him. He probably should still be top 25. But he had a rough season. He played a lot better after he got out of Florida. Jupiter's a really tough stadium for hitters, like really hard. So Chase Davis, calling it a loss. Probably should have been like 24, 25. Number 18, Chase Dolander. I'm calling it a win because I was even at 18, I was higher on Dolander than a lot of other people. I just knew he had good stuff, and I didn't care that he was going to be in Colorado. And now look at him. Now everyone has him as a top 50 prospect. So I'm calling this as a win because I was higher still at 18. Number 19, Aiden Miller. I'm calling this one a win. Some people didn't even have him in their first year player drafts in their rankings, top 25s or whatever last year. I had him at number 19. I think that was probably pretty high on him compared to other people. So, and he's good. He's a really good player. I saw him live. Lots of strikeouts there, but he's really toolsy. So a good player there. Number 20, Paulino Santana. I'm calling this a loss. I have him all the way down in like 250 or so. Like he's at the very bottom of my top 250. So I'm calling this a loss right here. Jose Perdomo, I'm also calling this a loss. This guy got hurt though. So way smaller sample sizes because he got hurt and didn't really play much last year. So I mean, like maybe it could have been called a push because he didn't play, but I'm calling it a loss. especially because Shota Imanaga, I put at 22. I'm calling this one a loss. Imanaga, I liked him a lot score wise, but I should have still been higher on him. Like last year, I was high on him in draft season, and I still put him at 22 because of the age. But like really, when you look at a pitcher, if you can get 5 really good years out of a pitcher, it's worth more than like some of the gambles. Like we're not going to get 5 good years out of Hurst and Waldrop. I can tell you that right now. So yeah, should have had Shota higher. That's a loss. Bryce Eldridge. This one right here is a huge loss. I was not high enough on Eldridge. And in retrospect on this one, I think it's because I was pissed off that the Cardinals didn't draft him. I remember when the Cardinals drafted Chase Davis, I was mad. And part of that was that I wanted Bryce Eldridge. And I think that part of me was just like at the time of my first year player draft last year, I was being a little too much of a fan. Like I was like, oh man, I was really mad that the Cardinals picked Chase Davis over Bryce Eldridge. And I think a part of me just wanted this to work. Like I wanted Chase Davis to be better than Bryce Eldridge. And that's why I ranked it this way. But I was totally wrong. I've got Bryce Eldridge now. It's like a top 25 player, top 25 prospect. So I was totally wrong on that. Bryce Eldridge is the man. At number 24, Nolan Shanuel last year. I'm calling that one a push because I guess like that's okay. Like he's a starter in the majors. He's just like meh, points league guy only. 25, I had Ty Floyd. I'm calling this one a push because this dude didn't even play at all. I thought this Ty Floyd could develop into like a high-end, high-leverage reliever like really quick. Like my thoughts on Ty Floyd was he could have been like Garrett Crochet in the pen for the Reds, but he was hurt and didn't play last year. Misses, I put Christian Campbell, Quinn Matthews, like everyone missed on these guys, right? Cooper Pratt, I had at number 26. Arjun Namala, I had at number 28. Casey Hunt, like those are guys everyone missed on though. So like Campbell, Matthews, Hunt, Klassen. So like, whatever. But Cooper Pratt, I had at 26. Arjun Namala, 28. So let's get to my first year player draft rankings for this year now. If you haven't watched it yet, I highly recommend you go and watch. I did a podcast. It's also on YouTube with the Scout the Stat Line guys, Doc and Matt and Ross. If you want to watch that, we did a first year player draft where you can see my selections against their selections. It's a very good episode. I highly recommend watching that. But here are my exact rankings. These are the rankings that I was drafting off of, just so you have this information. So we're going to discuss number 1, Roki Sasaki. And again, this is going to be all in an article so that if you're listening or you're watching on YouTube, you don't have to be writing down and taking notes unless you want to get the sneak peek in, or if your draft is coming up right away and you don't have time before the article comes out. But this is going to be coming out on Fantasy Pros, all of this in writing. So number 1, Roki Sasaki is by far the number 1 guy. Like he would be my number 1 prospect too. I note in my prospect top 150 rankings that I did not rank Roki on purpose because he's an international guy. I think it's kind of a cheat. So I just put, whatever on this one. First year player draft, he's going to be in those drafts. So you got to put him, right? But he should be the number 1 by far, like by far. Like if you don't pick Roki number 1, you're messing up big time. You can see his numbers in Japan. 129 Ks in 111 innings. Didn't pitch enough last year. That was last year. Should be opening day starter for the Dodgers. My fScores, I give him a 118 F stuff, 107 F control, 128 FERA. Probably only going to pitch like 130, 140 innings maybe this year. So that is like the knock on him is that he's probably not going to pitch a ton of innings. Dodgers are almost definitely going to go 6-man. But Roki Sasaki is amazing. Crazy velo. 6 splitter, insane slider, like number 1 dude, faux show. He's a number 35 starter for me to start the year. So if you want to read everything, you can, like I said, go check out the article. Number 2, I have Travis Bazzana. So Travis Bazzana had a ridiculous season in college, 400, 500, 900 slash, 48 extra base hits, 28 bombs, 16 steals. The bombs, this was the concern, and I talked about this on the Stats Skyline pod. He never had this kind of power before until last year with metal bats. So will this happen in the pros? But he did have 10 extra base hits, 3 homers, and 5 steals in 27 games in the minors. That was in high A too. So he did play pretty well, and my fScores give him a 93 contact, 122 plate skills, 93 power, 155 speed. My comp from is Daniel Murphy with more athleticism and quickness because of that plate skills, because he's playing second base. So Daniel Murphy, remember, had some really, really freaking good seasons. He didn't have speed, but he had like 20, 25 homer seasons with really good plate skills and hitting 280, 300. So Daniel Murphy, a lot of people might say, Daniel Murphy, really? Like Daniel Murphy was a really damn good player. So don't forget Daniel Murphy. Nationals fans won't forget Daniel Murphy. But I like Bazana a lot. I picked him to ahead of the other college guys because of the power speed primarily, and second base is just really weak. Number 3 is JJ Weatherholt, shortstop for the Cardinals. He's playing short right now. Cardinals have kind of announced, I want to say, that he's going to be probably a third baseman for them when he becomes a pro. Bazana should be up, by the way, mid-season this year. Like I said, Roki is going to be an opening day guy. I expect Bazana up in June or July. Weatherholt could be up for a cup of coffee this year. That's it. The Cardinals are cheap. They're not going to lose a year of eligibility by bringing him up earlier than that. So he will probably be, if he comes up, it'll be September call up. But it's also very possible that they try to get another year from him and he doesn't come up until like May next year because the Cardinals are super cheap. Just one of the cheapest teams in baseball. So like, besides maybe like the Twins, like they're like operating like the cheapest team in baseball right now. But Weatherholt only played 36 college games. He was hurt last year, but he had a 3.45 slash, 16 extra base hits, 8 bombs, 6 steals. In Aceball, in Jupiter, like I said, our place is really, really hard to hit. He had 295, 405, 400. The slugging, you can blame that on Jupiter. Really tough ballpark at sea level with wind. Like the outfield is facing the ocean. So the wind is blowing in from the outfield. It's a really hard ballpark to hit in. But he had more walks than Ks, 7 extra base hits, 2 bombs, 2 steals, and hit the crap out of the ball. Hit an average exit velocity of 91.8. That's insane. I think that was the top out of all these first-year player guys. Also, he had a 73.4% zone swing rate, which is amazing, and only a 14.1% chase rate. Like, this guy's plate discipline is insane. And he looks big, even though he's a smaller dude. Like the way he hits, like he's got a nice stance that's going to generate a lot more power for the size. Like Welsh gave him the Corbin Carroll batting stance. I agree, he has that where he's going to hit bigger than his actual size because of that's just the way he hits. He's got that momentum. But I call him a Corbin Carroll, Marcus Semien mashup. I love JJ Weatherholt. I really freaking love JJ Weatherholt. And that's not just because I'm a Cardinals fan. I saw this kid live, and the dude is baller. I'll just tell you. Number 4 is Nick Kurtz with the Athletics. So he had an insane little run in the minors, and when I put him into my fScores, I just instantly fell in love. College stats: 306, 531, 763 with 34 extra base hits, 22 bombs, and 4 steals. In A-ball and in AA for the Athletics, he hit 368, 520, 763 with a 24% walk rate, 20% K rate, 7 extra base hits, 4 bombs, and 1 steal. And he also, in my fScores, has a 106 F contact, 129 F discipline, 115 F power, and 86 F speed. F-score wise, he looks like Christian Walker. Like I mentioned this on the Scout the Stat line. I think he could put up Christian Walker-like stats depending on when he comes up. Like I think he could do that as soon as this year. Like if you want immediate impact, you could get that from this guy this year. I think that the A's are not going to begin the season with him, even if he has a killer spring. I think that they want Soderstrom to play. So I think Soderstrom is going to get some run. Maybe he plays catcher and first, or maybe he plays catcher and DH. But I think Kurtz is just going to hit the lights out in minor leagues, and he's going to be up pretty soon because the Athletics seem to want to compete, right? They signed Rooker. They're paying Rooker. They're getting aggressive with some of the promotions. Wilson's up. I think that they want to compete. Like they want to be a competitive team. They want to get their new destination, whoever it's going to be, Vegas, whoever, excited for them. So I think that Kurtz could be up relatively early next year. And the dude is going to be a beast at the plate. Like people have a sour taste of first baseman because of Andrew Vaughn, because of Spencer Torkelson, but Kurtz is going to get rid of all that. I complimented Joey Votto-esque profile, but I think he's going to put up like some Christian Walker-ish numbers. I think the plate skills are going to be better than Christian Walker though over like the long term. And he's only 22. Christian Walker didn't come up until he was like 26 or something. So just keep that in mind. Number 5 is Chase Burns with the Reds. Chase Burns fScores 113 fStuff, 98 control, 101 fERA. So insane stuff. I am worried about him giving up damage, especially in Great American Ballpark. I do think he comes up this year at the end of the season, especially if the Reds are competitive. I think they could use him. My comp from is Hunter Green, Dylan Cease mashup. He has an insane fastball slider combo. Could be one of the best in baseball. So I just really like him. I mentioned that like he has a combo that reminds me of Jared Jones, Spencer Strider, the fastball slider. But I like Chase Burns a ton. 191 Ks in 100 innings. The dude is going to be a baller. I want to say in like they could do the Paul Skeens thing with him where he just works up levels and just is so good that they promote him quick. It's all going to depend on how the Reds play. If the Reds need him this year, like I would not be surprised to see him. So it's all going to depend on how they play. But like to be safe, like my assumption would be like he's probably coming up like after the trade deadline this year. I think he's still up this year though, unless there's an injury or something. Number 6, outfielder Charlie Condon. He did not rank well in my fScores, partially because he was terrible at high A. His small sample size, I'm not even going to read it. It was so bad. If you want to look at it, go on Fangraphs. It was terrible. And that was after like the best college season ever where he went 4.5, 1,000 with 58 extra base hits, 37 bombs, and 3 steals. Now look, there are rumors that certain SEC teams had live feeds in dugouts and you can see some home road splits. The splits actually look really bad for Charlie Condon here. At home, he had 482, 530, 1125, and on the road, and this is in college, he had 279, 367, 698. So he was significantly worse on the road than at home. I'm not going to say he was cheating. I'm not saying that. But with the rumors and with the splits, he was definitely a home ballpark hitter at the least. So the good thing now is that his home ballpark is Colorado. You can't ask for a better one unless you're in Cincinnati. Because, yes, I do think Great American Ballpark is a better ballpark to hit in than the Rockies, especially if you want power. But my comp from is the less athletic righty, Cody Bellinger. 92 F contact, 76 F discipline, 109 F power, 112 F speed. Power speed skills are still there. Like, he's just right now, he's in Spencer Jones territory until we see something better in the minors. So he's being relegated to Spencer Jones territory. I think I've got him like right behind Spencer Jones in the rankings because he's my 25th overall player, which is another thing that I throw in here, by the way, in the article. You can see where I rank each player in my top 150. Like Chase Burns is 19, Nick Kurtz is 16, JJ Weatherholt's 13, Bazan is 12. So that's where these guys rank. Roki, like I said, I did not rank. But Condon, I've got at 25. I'm concerned about the home road splits in college. I'm concerned about the little bad start at high A, but not so concerned that I'm going to knock him that bad. Like he still has power speed. Number 7 is Jack Caglione with the Royals. Dude lit up Arizona Fall League, tons of power. Thanks to Welsh's videos of him just cranking massive home runs. My comp is Matt Olson. I did not give him enough score because I don't think he debuts this year. Why? We have Vinny P at first. We have Salvi at first and DH. Like, there's just not room for Caglione right now. They don't have a reason to call him up. The Royals are cheap. They're not going to want to call him up unless they have to. Unless there's an injury, I don't think he's going to be up this year. I think he's a 2026 guy, so hence no fScore. But on the flip side, he had similar home road splits as Condon. He was much better at home than on the road. So that is also concerning. And he also, I mentioned that he had better plate skills than Condon in the minors too. If you look it up, I talked about it in this Scout the Stat Line podcast. So watch that, you'll see. But Caglione ranks 28th for me in the top 150. Number 8 is starting pitcher Hagen Smith with the White Sox. Hagen Smith had a nice little, I put 2024 MLB. I meant, A-ball, where he was actually pitching. So Hagen Smith had a nice little debut in the minors. College, 84 innings, 161 Ks. So it's almost like 2 Ks an inning. Absolutely sick stuff. My comp from is Yusei Kikuchi with some Chris Sale-esque arm action on the slider. fScores 105 stuff, 97 control, 126 FERA. Big, strong lefty, 3/4-esque arm slot. When he pitches, it's just like snappy. Fastball snaps out, slider snaps out, high 90s velocity. Slider sick from the left side. It's just he's going to be dangerous. Like this guy, if he develops a third pitch, you could be maybe looking at like some McClanahan type stuff here from him. From the left side, just like insane stuff from the left side. So just keep that in mind. I think he comes up at the very end of 2025, cup of coffee. White Sox, like I said, the Cardinals, they're going to be cheap. They're not going to want to pop open that extra year of eligibility. So maybe he comes up for a cup of coffee just so that they can set him up for 2026 on the right foot. Like I think the same thing with Noah Schultz. I think both those guys are going to just be on the same track this year. Number 9, second baseman Christian Moore. I think he's up in June. I don't know why I picked June. I just think June. Angels love to promote their guys early. Obviously, like he was the hero of the College World Series. Awesome year. 55 extra base hits, 34 bombs, 5 steals with a 3.47, almost 3.48 line in college. In A-ball and AA, 25 games, he hit 347, 400, 584 with 12 extra base hits, 6 homers, 2 steals. He did strike out a lot. Plate skills are not great. fScores given 97 contact, 74 discipline, 102 power, 100 speed. My comp for him is a Connor Norby profile with shades of Alex Bregman without the play skills. He doesn't have the play skills of Alex Bregman, but like just whatever, when he's hitting, I don't know, for whatever reason, when I watched him hit, I just think of Alex Bregman. But as far as like profile wise, like could be like Connor Norby, which Connor Norby had a really, really good minor league career. Just because he was traded to the Marlins doesn't mean he's not good. Like Connor Norby's pretty damn good, people. I'm just going to skip. 39 is the top 150 because we're going too slow here. I want to do this in under an hour. So number 10 is Braden Montgomery. Didn't play, traded to the White Sox. I love the dude. My comp is a bigger Jason Dominguez with less speed, switch hitter, athletic, was a pitcher too. Like I think Montgomery is going to be a beast, and this is going to be a name that you're going to get good value on in your first year player drafts because he is falling because of the injury. Like there was a chance Braden Montgomery would have been a top 5 pick if he wasn't hurt. So just keep that in mind. Massive value here in Braden Montgomery. Number 11, and by the way, he's ranked 60 in my top 150. Number 11 is Seaver King. Seaver King, shortstop, third baseman for the Nationals. Comp is Trey Turner light. Good hit tool. Super fast dude. In college, he only had 11 steals, which is weird. 16 bombs, 11 steals, 33 extra base hits with a 3.35 slash. In A-ball, he had 295, 367, 385 with 10% walk rate, 14.4 K rate, 4 extra base hits, and 10 steals in A-ball. So, yeah, speed is real here. Number 71 prospect for me. Number 12, I have third baseman Cam Smith, traded from the Cubs to the Astros, had a huge debut, like even more than Kurtz. So, in A-ball, high A and double A last year, 313, 396, 609. 11.2 walk rate, 17.9 K rate, 16 extra base hits, 7 bombs, and 2 steals. He went to the right stadium, too. He's a righty, so Crawford boxes are going to play up for him. I think he's up at the end of 2025. This could depend. The Astros just traded Presley today, so that means, is Bregman going to come back to the Astros? If Bregman comes back to the Astros, Cam Smith ain't coming up. Like I'm just telling you, he ain't coming up this year because where's he going to play unless there's an injury? They're kind of clogged up. If they bring back Bregman, you're looking at Bregman, Pena, Altuve, and Walker in the infield. Plus, you've got Paredes in there somewhere, super sub / DH. Plus, you've got Yordan clogging up DH. And so he'll probably play a little more right field this year just because they have to get all these bats in the lineup. But, like, yeah, where's Cam Smith going to play pending injury? So just keep that in mind. But my comp from is Josh Young with some shades of Manny Machado. 96 F contact, 89 F discipline, 102 F power, 81 F speed. are the fScores on Cam Smith. Number 13, shortstop Bryce Rayner with the Tigers. High schooler, didn't even play in the minors. My comp for him is a lefty, Carson Williams. I'm the guy who ranks Rayner ahead of Connor Griffin, right? And I think Rayner was actually drafted ahead of Connor Griffin too, if I've got that right. I love the fact that like Max Clark and Bryce Rayner already seem to be boys too. So this and like the way the Tigers have developed some of these players gives me a lot of confidence on Rayner that like the Pirates are not the best at developing hitters. They've done okay on pitching, but like hitters, I haven't really seen it yet. Like they've had trouble developing O'Neal Cruz a little bit. Um, they've had trouble with like Endy and some of these guys. So like, and what's his face, Henry Davis. So like, I don't really trust the Pirates with developing hitters. The Tigers, I do trust at this point. So Rayner gets the nod for like some of these odd reasons over Connor Griffin, who I think they're pretty similar if it's just skills and skills. But like, like the team context better for Bryce Rayner. Connor Griffin, I comp to light Fernando Tatis just because he's a huge righty, big swing, got a similar swing. So, Connor Griffin actually added some weight to this offseason. So, like, these guys with these rookies, I have zero stats to go on. Like, I have no fScores. There's nothing to go on here except for just feel. So, I feel Rayner over Griffin, 13-14. Number 15, outfielder Braylon Payne. This dude was a 17-year-old at Aceball last year. And yeah, 4 games, see, small sample size, but he was really good in that small sample size, 438, 526, 625, with the same amount of walks and Ks, 2 extra base hits, and 4 steals as a 17-year-old. Now he's going to be 18. My comp from is Lawrence Butler because he's known as a super athletic outfielder with a rougher hit plate skill tool. We saw the speed, we saw and we saw the electricity, and Welsh told me he was also super electric when he saw him, which is really what turned me on to him. But my comp for Braylon Payne right now is Lawrence Butler, and I have him as my 101st ranked player in the top 150. Number 16 is outfielder Ryan Waldschmidt with the Diamondbacks. This dude has really good plate skills, right? My comp for him is a righty Lars Nootbaar. In Aceball, he hit 273, 485, 318 with a 12.3% walk rate. Still strikes out, though. So does Lars Nootbaar. He did not have 47 extra base hits here in Aceball. Sorry. Something got messed up there on the text. But 333, 469, 610 slash with 31 extra base hits, 14 homers, and 25 steals in college. Number 17, Carson Benj. Carson Benj is my number 124 overall prospect. Another two-way player in college. There's like so many of these guys now. It's insane. But athletic outfielder. I'm thinking he has like 25, 15 upside here. My comp from is Colton Cowser with a bit more of an open stance. College, he hit 346 with 44 extra base hits, 18 homers, and 10 steals. He's also pitching, like I said. Now that he's going to be focusing on hitting, maybe it helps him. But 273, 420, 436 slash, 15.9% walk rate, 20.3% K rate, 5 extra base hits, 2 bombs, 3 steals in Aceball. That is Carson Benj, my 124th overall player. Number 18, Trey Yesovich with the Blue Jays. We did not see him debut in the majors. This is what a lot of these college pitchers do. They don't pitch again until the following season. That's why we had so many pop-up guys at the beginning of the season in Aceball, because a lot of these guys didn't pitch. But in college, 93 innings. So he did, put up a decent workload. 145 Ks, 32 walks, 203 ERA, 87 whip. He's going to be 21 only at the beginning of the next season, I believe. Righty Kershaw Light is the comp that I gave him. Big righty with super over the top trebuchet like delivery. Like if you can imagine the catapult trebuchet, that's what I think of when I see him pitch. But top 150 rank is 138. So you can tell I'm a history nerd. Number 19 is outfielder Slade Caldwell with the Diamondbacks. Slade Caldwell is mostly a hit tool. He did not debut, but big hit tool. Sal Frelick is the comp for him with maybe more power. Ceiling might be like Stephen Kwan. This dude is just going to be built to hit. And I think he is like almost a guarantee to be a pro, even as a high schooler, because his hit tool is so good. So he has a really safe floor for a high school guy, which is one of the reasons I really like him, because some of these guys, sometimes when you're getting high schoolers, they may never make the majors. I think Slade Caldwell is almost like a lock just because the hit tool is so good, like pending tremendous injury or something. Number 20 is Theo Gillen with the Rays. Theo Gillen had a bad little complex debut. I don't care. It was 8 games. Who cares? 41% strikeout rate. Oof. But who cares? My comp from is a smaller Parker Meadows. I think he's got great timing at the plate. Gets on pitches. Really sweet swing. Like really nice swing. By the way, Parker Meadows is like 6'5". So Theo Gillen, I think, is like 6'1" or 6'2". But he played shortstop in high school, moved off to outfield. So really good athlete here. Kind of reminds me also like skill wise of like a Josh Lau or an Aiden Smith. So, Theo Gillen like playing straight into like the Rays, like these type of athletic outfield guys with, iffy hit tools that they try to like to develop. And Aiden Smith, I know they didn't draft him. He was a Mariners pick, but they traded for him. So number 21, starting pitcher Ryan Sloan with the Mariners. Speaking of the Mariners, so my comp for Ryan Sloan, who did not debut, we have no data from, he's a high schooler, 0 data, is Chris Carpenter-ish with a slider instead of a curve. Because he's just this huge dude from Illinois, of course. So he reminds me of that just helps me remind me more of Carpenter. Lower to mid 90s fastball, he has 2 different changeups and a slider. And, Carpenter was of the cutter curve era. So maybe he develops a cutter at some point too, Sloan. But the slider, I don't know. He just reminds me of Chris Carpenter watching him pitch, especially because he's from Illinois. Maybe he grew up watching Chris Carpenter. You know what I mean? I don't know if he's a Cardinals guy or a Cubs guy. But I put him just ahead of Caminetti because you can see my rankings. I've got Sloan 21, Caminetti 22, and I have their top 150 is 154 and 155. And again, this is a situation where there's 2 high school guys, and I like the context in the situation better for Sloan. Mariners are really good developing pitchers, and I think Sloan fits into this like Logan Gilbert, George Kirby type mold. So I kind of like that. I think they're going to develop him pretty easily. Like I think that he's just going to come along swimmingly here. Cam Kennedy with the Braves, he might have like really good stuff, but like I'm a little concerned about the control. Even though he does have decent mechanics, I comp him to a raw Mackenzie Gore with like wiry mechanics. That's what he reminds me of. Super athletic dude. Throws like 97 from the left side. So there's a lot to like here tools wise, but I don't know. The Braves are hit and miss with pitching prospects. Like they kind of ruin a lot of them. Like people forget like Ian Anderson was a top prospect. They like ruined him. And Bryce Wilson, they've had a lot of these like top prospect guys that kind of just get ruined. Like the success scores, like Schwellenbach come up and be like, oh, they're great at developing, Strider and Schwellenbach. But those guys were not even the big prospects. The big prospects were Wright and Ian Anderson. So they're good at developing like guys that weren't supposed to be the big guys. Like Strider was supposed to be a reliever, coming up. And Schwellenbach kind of came out of nowhere. He was hurt. So like they're good at that, but like the top prospect guys, they kind of ruin. So I'm a little concerned about Caminetti and the Braves. Just throwing that out there. 21 or 23, sorry, starting pitcher is Durangelo Sagente. I'm never going to get this one right. Sagente. I almost said a bad word. So we'll just put it at that. But anyway, my confirm is nobody, though I do see a little bit of Luis Castillo from the right side for him. But he pitches righty and lefty. He literally pitches with both arms. So nobody else ever does that. But he throws from the right side 98. Left side is a 90 on the fastball. But from the right side, he's got a changeup, slider, fastball. Left side is low 90s with a sweeper, which is actually pretty good. Like I like the lefty sweeper. It's gonna be interesting to see what they do with him. Apparently, he's way better on the right side. So maybe like the lefty thing is just a gimmick, or they use it against guys with like terrible splits against lefties only. So I don't really know how they're gonna use him, but I think it's interesting, and I think he could still be even just a prospect from the right side. So, and especially in the Mariners system, Mariners again amazing at developing pitchers. So I'm buying this a little bit here. Number 24, Josuar de Jesus Gonzalez. I think it's probably Josuar. It's a nice Spanish, Tim. Josuar de Jesus Gonzalez. I think it's just Josuar Gonzalez is like his name. But switch hitting kid, nice stance from both sides. I watched a bunch of video of this guy just batting practice and stuff, and like he hits the ball so hard. Like the bat the wood on bat or ball on wood bat just sounds so nice from him. Sweet swing. He's a shortstop, a switch hitter, and literally his swing looks like Wander Franco. And I even put on here, I know the name is as bad as Voldemort nowadays, but this is exactly who this kid reminds me of, is Wander Franco. Sorry about that, but like I like him a lot. I ranked him 167. He hasn't, he's 17. So what am I gonna do? I'm not gonna put him in my top 150. Kid hasn't even played Dominican League yet. So we'll see. But I think he's gonna be a stud. And then 25, I've got, I've got the DeVries Feelies here with him. So number 25 is shortstop Kellen Lindsay with the Dodgers, which actually DeVries would be a decent comp for him too, because DeVries is also a shortstop switch hitter, but whatever. 25 shortstop Kellen Lindsay. I'm just going here with my last pick. I'm going to go all out upside. So like my comp for him is a super light mold of Mason Wynn and Trey Turner, like combine those guys, but like I said, super light. During the draft, they're comparing him to Trey Turner, which I get because he kind of has a similar stance, but like he's not going to be that good. Like I think Mason Wynn is like a good profile for him here, even though he kind of looks like Trey Turner because he's a white kid on the Dodgers that can fly, 80 speed or whatever. So, when he was on the Dodgers, he also played quarterback in high school. So interesting. I always like guys that play quarterback because they seem to be really good athletes when they come play other sports, like Bubba Chandler. So like just another note why you might like him. But Lindsay, he's all speed. His hit tool looks like okay. Like I was watching him hit. He's just kind of like, okay. I get it. Like it's not bad, but like this dude's all speed here. So Kellen Lindsay, if you want a lightning bolt with your last pick, like that's the name that I would go with here. But those are the top 25 for my first year player draft rankings. Check out the article when it's out on Fantasy Pros. I did do it under an hour. That's why I had to do this one solo, or else it would have gone forever. And I wanted to go review my old stuff too and be accountable, right? I'm accountable. So in 1 year, we're going to be going over these ones, and we're going to be calling them win, loss, or push. If you want to comment on anything, feel free to do it. Follow me on X, @Fantasy Aceball. Subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Peace out. We'll see you next time. And if you listen to the podcast and you actually want to read through the article too while you watch, like I said, I'm giving you my raw article on the YouTube channel. So on the YouTube, I'm trying to throw in extra stuff here for you guys. So check it out on the YouTube. I don't want you to just look at my pretty face. I'm trying to give you also like valid content, like good stuff to like look at while we're doing the YouTube. Like I'm trying to make use of the technology here and make YouTube a thing. Because I know some people are like, they prefer visual medium. So there we go. Peace out, everybody. See you next time. Later.